And I'm in love with the good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top and keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up, I'm coming up. The good life, good life. Oh, good life, good life. Good life, good life.
Boom, coming in hot chinchy on a Monday, and we got an unbelievable guest today, brother.
No need for any kind of goofy intro, man. This is it. It's like game 161 and a half, 161, 2, 3, and it's all happening in Hotlanta, and we have a guy who is maybe the greatest pitcher of all time.
I was going to say, we don't even need to introduce this guy. Friend of the show, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, also one of the greatest analysts of all time. You can catch him again doing the World Series this year and a bunch of playoff games. I believe he starts next Saturday. So let's bring him in, our buddy John Smoltz. Smoltzy, what's up, brother?
Yeah, this is crazy. Crazy day. Game one would be a fun game to pitch if you're a pitcher. I'm not so sure game two would be that much fun, but game one is a do or die basically for each team. And I miss that, but I can't wait to watch it.
Oh, it's going to be great. What do you think it's Smoltzy, like in a situation like this, especially as far as the pitching goes? Because we're seeing right now that Schwellenbach is going to go game one and Sale game two if they need him. Would you not want to go Sale to start and just get it over with and win that first game and be done? Or how would you set it up if you were managing these games?
I would do exactly what they're doing. Save Sale as long as possible. He got a good rest. He's been an unbelievable year. He was probably getting a little gassed at the end. But I think the way this should shake out is I don't see any team sweeping. I don't see how in the world, based on the team that wins game one, what kind of resources they're going to use game two. I just don't see it. I mean, it might happen out of default, but I think the Diamondbacks are in such a tough spot. Once they didn't win on Saturday, they put themselves in a very tough spot because now if you're the Atlanta Braves or you're the New York Mets, you are not starting your second game starter if you win that game. You have to save that guy for the first round, which starts, by the way, tomorrow. So it's a perfect scenario for how the Braves were in a very bad spot a week ago. Now they're in a good spot, whereas the Mets were in a great spot, kind of worked themselves into a bad one, but now they're kind of okay because likelihood is that each team's going to win a game.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe it. Game 160. Smoltzy, I don't know about you, bro, but I find this so amazing. Looking back and playing 162 games a year, 162 games. And then you got to go to a 163, you're down to a 163. I find that fascinating. Like, did you find that too? Like how crazy it was all those years you played in Atlanta and, any division could come down to one game or a one game playoff or a one game lead towards the end. I think it's fascinating with that many games.
It is. When you think about the expanded playoffs, you bring in more chances for this to happen. That's what they wanted. They wanted more teams, more cities to have relevant baseball going into the last week of the season. And I think for the historic run that the Mets went on, they put themselves in this conversation. And really, when you think about the last week, you could look back to games if you're each team and go, man, we blew this one. That's why we're in this spot. Or we won this incredible game. That's why we're in this spot. So baseball is pretty unique. The teams that go on and sitting with the first, second best records don't have to deal with that. But these guys that are fighting to get in, we've seen history work on their side when they get in and they kind of keep going. The Philadelphia Phillies did it the last couple of years. We've had other teams do it, like the Texas Rangers, the most recent example last year. You talk about having to be gassed from going from Tampa Bay to Seattle to Baltimore and then never losing a road game is unbelievable. So crazy things happen this time of year, and it's no better thing for baseball than to have chaos, and that we have chaos today.
We do. Smoltzy, here's another question too, bro. You just said it. Hey, I'm not starting Saturday. I don't start doing the games till Saturday because that's when the division series starts. And I think about these teams, especially a guy like Aaron Judge didn't play on Sunday, didn't play yesterday. He's not going to pick up a bat for a whole week. He's not going to play until 6 days from now on Saturday, dude. And I've been down that road before in the World Series in 06 when we had 6 days off. Dude, is it an advantage now to win the division? Is it an advantage now to have that first round bye with the fact that you're in Major League Baseball, rhythm and timing are everything? Do you think that these division winners do have the edge, having this much time off?
On paper, they really should. But the beauty of baseball is we don't play on paper, right? There's a lot of good strategy on paper, but it doesn't always work. This is what I was hoping for a long time ago. When you think about being rewarded for the two best records, you should have a decided advantage. They thought, and it hasn't worked out. It hasn't, to your point. Offensively, it is very difficult to miss the intensity and the timing of hitting when you're facing elite pitching and then you disappear for 5 days. Every team's going to try something different. Simulated games, all kinds of BP. There's going to be things that are being tried, and that there's only been one team to survive it. The Houston Astros are the only team.
Yes.
I think we're going to see another change if this trend continues, because you can't allow the best teams in baseball to have an advantage that doesn't work out to be an advantage, right? And the reason it's not as big of an advantage, when I first saw this playoff system, I said, amen, I love it. Because now, in theory, unlike today, in theory, you're having to use 2, possibly 3 of your starters that you burn to come into playing the best teams. But with the off days that have existed and with teams winning in 2 games, there's no disadvantage for those teams all of a sudden. Game 1 starter in a best of 3 gets to be relevant in a best of 5 in the next series. So the off days is what hurt. You think about baseball played in 162 games and let's say, 18 off days? We might have 11 or so off days in a postseason tournament. There's too many off days, but I understand it. TV and producing it, I get it. So it's a different road you have to travel. And if it doesn't work out this year, I think you got to look at ways to advance it. And here's how I would do it, just real quick. Let's just say the 4 best records don't get to the World Series again this year. My argument would then be, all right, how do you give them a better advantage? I think the only way you do it is give them all home games. And then if a team comes in and beats you on your turf 3 out of 5, then tip your hat, right? Because the team that's going into these 2 out of 3 don't get a home game. They're playing on the road. So they're going to look at things, but I hope for the sake of baseball that you get the best teams available for the postseason that are able to play the same kind of style they did in the regular season. And we haven't seen that out of the bye teams yet.
Listen to John Smoltz, everybody, because half of the ideas that you see in baseball right now were his sitting in like the bullpen back in the day. Yeah, that's all you guys.
Smoltzy, what about the great season as far as when you look at this season? And can you remember a time when a guy on the East Coast and a guy on the West Coast were having the years that they're having in a Judge and Ohtani? When you watched this season play out, what were your thoughts on both those guys?
Well, the one thing that I'm a fan of is if you are playing baseball and it's in your DNA to steal bases, then I'm cool with whatever so-called record there is. What I'd never like is you get 10 or 12 home runs ahead of stolen bases, and then you decide to start stealing bases, right? Like I just last year, Acuna had 70 stolen bases and 40 home runs. Stolen base is part of his game. He didn't wait to get 70 once he got 40. He was doing things to help your team win. I'm a fan of anything that helps your team win. If it becomes a statistical anomaly, great. But you know how it is. You can manipulate statistical anomalies by saying, okay, I got to 50 home runs. I'm at 38 stolen bases. Now I'm going to steal bases to get to – and you can steal insignificant bases that don't really help your team, i.e. up 8-0, stealing second, stealing third. So all that being said, what Ohtani is doing we will never see again, even by him, because – if he does do what he's supposed to do and pitch the next 5, 6, 7 years, there is no way the Dodgers are going to let him steal 50 bases for the future. So he's had a freedom of being the freakish player that he is. He could steal 75 if he wanted to, and he certainly has shown the power and the average and the combination. But as far as the East Coast, West Coast with Judge, maybe Trout would be the only other guy. when he was doing his thing. I can't think of the timing of who would be in the East Coast. But this has been a special year for Triple Crown type. I still think that matters. Triple Crown type guys. And what an incredible performance in the first year of a monster contract, by the way, in what Shohei has done.
I mean, the fact that he got $70 million, obviously to be a two-way player, but to come out and be a 50-50 guy for that first year, I mean,
insane.
That's sending a message. Yeah, that's sending. Do you think we'll see him in the postseason, Smoltz? Any chance we see Ohtani, if it gets to the championship series or the World Series, will he show up at some point?
No, there's no reason to do that, to put that jeopardy in that, even if he's 80% ready. There's just no way to have the stresses at that time of the year be your first time back on the mound. So absolutely not. If we do, I would be completely shocked, and I'll shave the rest of my head.
I love it. Who do you think's got more pressure, Yankees or Dodgers, to win the whole thing?
Dodgers. Dodgers put together an incredible offseason roster that has been a shell of itself, unfortunately, with this pitching rotation and the injuries. And we've discussed all those and why that's become a commonplace in baseball. For the New York Yankees, the pressure is probably greater on their organization history, because they haven't won one in a long time, and we're used to seeing them win them just about every other 5 years. And I think the pressure for the Yankees will be solely about whether or not they keep Soto in the future. And I think, and I've always said that if they win the World Series, it's actually easier to keep them than it is if they don't. They put together a package to try to get to the World Series. And what the Dodgers did, and even though it was a shortened season, they took off a lot of years off their life by winning a championship that they hadn't won in like 31 years. And now we're reaching a streak with the Yankees that have not won a World Series in a while. So, but the Dodgers put all of their resources, not in just one, but they didn't sign Ohtani to just win one World Series. They signed Ohtani and everybody else they signed to win multiple. So I still think when you talk about whose roster has the most pressure, it would be the Dodgers.
Okay. Any takes on? Did you get a chance to see Yamamoto pitch this year? What do you think? I didn't realize he was so small of a guy too. Does that body hold up? With the everyday pitching in the big leagues. What were your takes on Yamamoto?
Well, it was unfortunate. He was so nasty before he got hurt. He was dominant, and that was why they signed him to such a historic contract without ever pitching in the big leagues. I think the big thing and the style of pitching and the ball and everything that the Japanese pitcher have to get used to is definitely relevant. But what I've seen recently makes you feel real comfortable that he is beyond what was a big injury that set him back a long time. So, look, I know we want to compartmentalize everything, and I know the theory was when they signed Glasnow, control his innings, set him off to the side for a while, and then he'll be ready for the postseason. It didn't work. It's not that easy. Right. So you can't just set certain things aside and expect that you're going to have that on paper strategy to work at the most important time of the year.
What is the strategy, Smoltz? And for you being one of the, it's incredible to talk to a guy that's one of the best starting pitchers of all time and one of the best closers of all time. Like that's obviously incredible for what you did there. But when you look at these rotations and you look at these bullpens, as a manager going into these playoffs, would you rather have a better rotation or a better bullpen?
That question has always been one that has been flipped upside down by the philosophy of the game. They're now saying you'd rather have a better bullpen. I'd rather bullpen the postseason, and in one individual year you can kind of do that, but it collectively doesn't work long term. Those guys are going to get worn out. So to answer that question, the reason I believe the Philadelphia Phillies are in the best position is because their bullpen is more rested than any other team. If you're going to use your bullpen with the expanded playoffs, and you think you can use your bullpen at a 70% of the innings, you are crazy. That's a heroic effort to get through all those games. Now, if you tell me you sweep all those series, yes, you can do it. But as a hitter, what the narrative of today is, don't let the pitcher see a hitter two times through the lineup, right? Well, guess what? You're going to see those relievers sometimes maybe 4 times in right. So where does the advantage go? I think the most complete bullpens in both leagues right now, if I was just spitfiring, would be the San Diego Padres and the Cleveland Guardians. And don't sleep on the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen either, because they're pretty nasty as we speak. So I still think you've got to win with starting pitching. But in isolated cases, and you get the right matchups, you get the right breaks, yes, you can win with a loaded bullpen. You think about what sports tried to do once the Kansas City Royals won in 2014 or 15, right? They said, 15. We're going to do what they did. We're going to get the 4 best relievers on every back end of every rotation. Good luck. You can't do that. It's hard to imitate. And it's kind of what basketball did with the Golden State Warriors, 3 best shooters on one team. It sounds good, it's sexy, but it's hard to replicate. And I think that's where baseball has kind of moved from, all right, that process and how you build a championship team only works in an isolated year. It never works year after year after year.
It can't sustain. It's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
It's not
because
sustainable.
if these relievers were rested all year, yeah, maybe okay. But you're asking them to push the limit and go extra. And we've seen everybody's confined to this guy won't go more than an inning. This guy can only pitch on, when you have those restraints during 162 games, how do you just all of a sudden take them off in the most vulnerable time of their careers? And that's why so many guys break down. When you see postseason runs from young staffs or staffs that haven't been there, show me a staff that's stuck together the next year. It just doesn't happen because they're emptying the bucket at the most vital time, and they're asking those guys to pitch at rates that is hard to sustain, especially with the velocity that we see.
So good, man. So good. Well, having you on, man, I'd love for our viewers to understand, because you do look at, I really think of the New York Yankees and Clay Holmes at the back end of the pen, just had trouble, putting teams away and couldn't get those last 3 outs. Why are the last 3 outs the toughest, Smoltz?
The toughest because you got to do it every single time. If you have to do it occasionally, it's not that tough, right? If all the technology you guys have to do this podcast was dumbed down and you had to do it in a different way, you might get it done, but you'd be uncomfortable. It would be a little bit more work. You might not have the same interview process. It might not flow as well. And when people think that every pitcher is interchangeable, they've never pitched. They've never been in the situation. I had to learn on the job a very tough role. It was not easy. And you know what? In 3 years, I was fortunate enough to save 154 games. And I think I blew 8. Do you know how many times I got interviewed? 8 times. That's why it's hard to get 3 outs, because they don't come to you when you've had a great 2-inning save. They might talk to you, and say, hey, nice job. But they really want to come talk to you when you don't get it done. So when you say, how hard is it to get the last 3 outs every time? It's a mentality that you have to have no memory and you have to have no fear. You cannot be afraid of the moment, and you cannot be afraid of giving it up. Because in the 7th inning, if I give it up, I know I got 2 more innings that my team can rally. If I give it up in the 9th, there's no rally. So there's the biggest mistake most closers make. They try to save every game. I learned a valuable lesson that there are games that are savable, and then there are games you got to keep going. Because if you don't keep the game going, even if you blew the save, you give your team no chance. So that's the thing that I learned a long time ago, is that even if I blow a 1-run save, keep it tied. So my team has a chance. Right. And I think with the new rules and extra innings and a man on second, it's a psychological shift that you have to have. If you give up a run in that extra innings, you've done your job, because the run is easier to get with a man on second, nobody out. The next inning, my team steps to the plate with a chance to win. If I give up 2 runs in extra innings, my team comes to the plate the next inning with a chance to tie. You're always see, now that was never the case when you're going into a 1-run game. You try to never give up a run. So I tell all these people who have a hard time when they come to philosophy of the game, they say, why can't Sean Casey, who's done a great job in the 7th inning, pitch the 9th inning, or pitch the 5th inning, or pitch the 8th inning? And I said, why can't you, with your computer and all the input and how easy it is for the team to get information, put your computer away and use your phone? Could you use your phone? And they go, yeah, but it'd take longer. It'd be different. I said, exactly. You're going to be uncomfortable. You may get the job done, but you're uncomfortable. And so when people get uncomfortable, their chance of success goes down. And you want comfort in the bullpen. You don't want any surprises. You want your guy who every time is going to be the guy in the 9th. That role works better in the postseason and even in a season when everyone understands. So That's the simplest way to describe getting the last 3 outs is not easy. It's difficult, and you got to do it time in and time again. You could have 29 saves in a row and blow one. They're coming to your locker asking you why you blew that game.
Is Class A on a tier by himself right now? Is he better than everybody? And do you think he could be one of those guys that we talk about that we haven't had since the Moes and you guys?
He is in another level. He's there with Williams in Milwaukee. Maybe not. Williams doesn't have the same kind of like it's over, but it's close. And this is what people don't understand. And I know, I kind of drew some eyebrows. I'm not worried about what people think when I give my opinion because I'm not on any social media. But there's a narrative out there that analytically the scoreboard doesn't matter. The scoreboard doesn't matter. You hear that all the time. All these decisions they don't have an understanding that when you're going to face the Cleveland Guardians, you tell me the scoreboard doesn't matter when Clase is sitting there that could come in the 8th or come in the 9th, and historically he just ain't giving it up. So if you're not winning by the 6th inning against some of these teams, there's a good chance you're not winning. And so you can't just put everything in the same bucket and say this doesn't matter or the scoreboard doesn't matter. It does. And when Clase is in the bullpen, everyone's going to say you got a chance, but it's human nature. Case, this. When Hell's Bells was playing and Trevor Hoffman came in or Gagne was doing his thing and saving 86 in a row, you can't honestly feel like you were going to be in a better position facing him than if you were facing somebody else. So it matters, and that's why the edge. Every team, I say this, I love this part about sports. It's in every sport. You watch football this past weekend, someone has an edge on defense. Someone has an edge on offense. How is that going to work out? In the game of baseball, there's 3 or 4 components that leaving spring training, you got a weakness in one of them, and the goal is to hide it as long as you can. When you get to the postseason, you want an edge somewhere. You want someone to fear something. And the team that has more things that they fear, in theory, should be the team that usually goes on to play for the World Series. But if you've got weaknesses that get exposed, if you can't hold runners on and you're facing a team that steals bases, good luck. Good luck. Unless you keep them off the bases, good luck. Or if you don't play defense well and it gets exposed, or your bullpen's not very good and it gets exposed, there's nowhere to hide in the postseason. It will show itself up every single time.
Case, what's that lid you got on right there?
Dude, you kidding me? It's my favorite hat. You know me, Chinch. I'm a hat snob, dude. I really am. This is my new melon hat. I've had it for a few months now, dude. It's incredible. It's super comfortable. The one thing I love about it, too, sometimes you wear hats all the time. They get those sweat stains. This hat doesn't get a sweat stain. It's got unbelievable comfort fitting. It fits perfectly with the snapback on the back. 5 times more durable, I think, than any other hat I've ever had. So, man, this hat's incredible. The melon hat, man. You got to get a couple of these, brother.
Yeah, dude, I've heard about him. It's like the most premium, durable headwear in like the whole world. And, people use them for tailgating, working out on a golf course. You're going golfing later today, heading out for date night with Sarah. You throw the melon cap on, right?
Yeah,
Am I right?
I wear it for everything, dude. The only thing I can't wear it to is premium restaurants where they're like, okay, you got to take your hat off. So other than that, I'm wearing my melon hat pretty much everywhere. Dude, it's my new favorite hat. I've been wearing my melon hat for the past few months straight, dude. No sweat stains, what I said, no smell. Looks the same as the day I took it out of the box. I get a ton of compliments on it every time I wear it. It's even better. They have different options for different weather. If it's warm out or you might be jumping in the pool, lake, or ocean, you need their Hydro Collection, bro. The Hydro Collection is next level, Chinch. You'd love that. But when it gets cold and you need to stay warm, don't worry, brother. Melon has you covered there as well. They have a full thermal collection with different levels of warmth to keep you on whatever you need for when the winter's coming up, brother. Big time.
Nice.
So if you're looking for hats as tough as you, my man, check out Melon. You won't wear anything else after you get one on for yourself. And I know I've been loving my Melon.
Yeah, listen to Sean Casey, folks. If you're looking for the world's most durable hat, look no further. Go to melon.com. That's MELIN.com and put it to the test yourself.
Yes. Smoltz, first off, this is gold, dude. Incredible stuff. I want to know, what was your edge, dude? You're one of the best postseason pitchers of all time. Not everyone could do that. You know, we see guys like Clayton Kershaw and some of the best pitchers of all time don't perform well in the postseason. Why were you so good in the postseason, especially what was your mentality?
I wasn't afraid to fail. I wanted to be in the moment so bad, and I wasn't afraid to take whatever came with that game. Like when you go to a plate, you go to the plate, again, to reiterate an obvious, when you're standing in the box, you know who has the advantage. It's either the pitcher or you. And the job is to never convey that advantage, right? You never want to show the pitcher like, oh, I got no chance. When you're pitching in the postseason, the one thing that you're not guaranteed is another start. In the regular season, you're guaranteed 35, 36 starts, right? You stay healthy, you're going to have the ball every 5 days. One thing that I always prided myself on, I wasn't afraid. I'm going to challenge the best, and I'm going to go after you. Now, the one thing that I could do, I didn't max effort, so I had my velocity pretty much in place all year. I could elevate my velocity and elevate my stuff in the postseason, and this is how I broke it down to people. If I'm facing Sean Casey in a one-run game and it's a 3-1 count, good chance I'm throwing him a fastball in a regular season. It's a good chance because I'll take my chances. I'm trying to win the battle that gets me to win the war. Because if I try to win the war every single game I pitch, I'm never going to get to the end of the season. I'm going to be exhausted and broke down. So I'll take more chances in the regular season. Still want to win. In the postseason, I'm never taking that chance with you. I'm not laying a 3-1 fastball in there. I'm gonna throw a slider. I'm gonna make a pitch. So every inning I pitched in the postseason was worth 3 innings of intensity. Think about that. Whereas in the regular season, it was just a 1 inning. You know, there was never that level of intensity or stress that was going to take me. People go, well, John, why didn't you pitch more regular season games like postseason games? You never would have heard of me. I'd have broke down. It's what guys are doing today, by the way. They're even coming out and saying we're pitching a postseason game every start. So we got nothing. We're at the end of the rope at the end of the season. There's no reserve. And so whatever the scenario was, I had already played it out in my mind as a kid. And this is what I'm telling you doesn't guarantee success. You can overwant it. You can amp up so much. You have to slow your heartbeat down. You have to be in the moment, and you have to lower. You pay attention. I paid attention to every detail. I probably got some ADD like all of us do, you know, and I could wander in the regular season, think about my golf round coming up or think about my interview. You know, I would admit like I wouldn't always be locked in. There was never a moment in the postseason that I wasn't locked in. It didn't matter if there's 52,000 people screaming. I was in a zone. And I guess to me, that's kind of allowed me to get to the level that I always want to be to. And look, I got a chance to pitch a ton of games. I can make an argument I probably shouldn't have lost one game. That's the way I felt. I don't care if it's Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax, Warren Spahn. I don't care who it is. I want to be the guy. Like, sorry, I'm the guy. And that's not an arrogance. That's just a desire and a want to. Yeah. And I think you'd be shocked how many guys don't want to be the guy. They don't want to be in the mound at that time or at the plate. And I think it's a heartbeat that allows you to kind of be in the moment and not go too fast.
Yeah. Wow. Guys, what an answer, man. And you can't teach experience. You know, all the times you were there, I'm sure you added on to that greatness. One guy that I think of, Smoltz, when you're talking about, and this is the last question I'm going to ask you, one guy that I think about, I just want to hear what you have to say about him because I think we were all thrilled and enamored by him this season when he came up. Paul Skenes for the Pirates, I feel like is a once-in-a-generational type player. When you break his game down, Smoltz, what do you see? What are you impressed by? And maybe where do you think he could also get it better if that's even the case?
Oh, he can get better. That's the beauty. What he did on his first campaign is pretty impressive. Look, he's a big body guy, which I like. He repeats his mechanics, which I like. He has a little things that he can improve from getting around the baseball sometimes with his slider. He'll get better with that. There'll be more crispness to it. His changeup's going to improve. But here's the thing. The narrative is going to be not if, but when. And I hope we're not talking about not if, but when he gets hurt. Because 100 miles an hour is not normal. I like a lot of his routine that he's doing, a lot of things he's preparing. There are some things that are a little bit advanced, maybe crazy enough to where it might work. But baseball and this art of pitching I still don't understand why we're not going backwards to go forwards. There's a reason guys pitch 250, 270 innings. There's a reason we're at 180 now. Some of these things aren't working. So when I see a Paul Skenes, I go, please learn how to pitch in gears. Please learn how to not be addicted to 14, 15 strikeouts. Please learn how to repeat your mechanics so that you can last and you can be the elite pitcher that we all know you can be. Because selfishly, I want to see it. I don't want to be talking about 4 years from now why he's on the shelf and why this could have been preventable. And I think for this young man and this organization, this is essential for the Pittsburgh Pirates, that they keep these young dynamic pitchers healthy, that they think differently about their training and what they're asking them to do. Because if we keep going rinse and repeat, we're not going to change anything. If we think that, I got the outlier, show me in the last 10 years who's been an outlier. Not one person, not one pitcher. You can make the argument that Charlie Morton has exceeded and gone beyond what typically most pitchers in the future will ever be part of. And he spins it and has a lower three-quarter angle, and he could rush it up there to 96 as well. But if we could start training pitchers to not be consumed with a 1.8 ERA, 3's okay. Give my team a chance to win by staying healthy. That's what I hope, because this dude is legit. I would start my franchise with all the dynamic. If we had a redraft, he would be one of my top picks if I had it, because I know position players stay healthier, but this freak doesn't come along very often. And I would want to invest in making sure that he stays as healthy as possible so that we could utilize him for if the organization doesn't have desires to go to the postseason, then this is all foolish talk, right? But if they want to someday be relevant, which I think they're close, and that's Pittsburgh, then it's got to start next year.
And what is the toughest pitch? I mean, you see Skenes throw the splinker. He's got a slider. So did you, Smoltz. You had the split. You had the slider. You had the great fastball. What is the pitch that's getting these guys nowadays? What is the pitch that's hardest on your arm?
The slider and the ability to spin it at max effort at the highest rate we've ever seen is the reason. I think he could survive next year. Look about it. I mean, this is not realistic what I'm going to say, but this is how good he is. He could survive next year on nothing but fastballs. But the usage of the fastball league-wide is at its lowest it's ever been. What is that telling you? Not only is it the lowest, it's the highest velocity we've ever seen. So you can't say that that's the pitch that single-handedly is taking guys out. It's a contributor. But when you throw a fastball and you're exerting and maybe you're grunting, yeah, that's different. But throwing a fastball is not as nasty on your elbow as throwing a nasty slider every single time. If we go back and we look at the percentage of usage of all the guys in the history of baseball and all starters, they all pitched off their fastball. They all threw. Glavine pitched off his fastball. If you asked a fan, they think he threw 60% changeups. Not true, right? The changeup is a better pitch than most people think. But everything that they're doing today is power changeup, power split, power slider, power curveball. All of it max effort to miss barrels. Guess what? They do. They miss barrels. And if you show a 9-year-old the same pitch, you think he's going to have the common sense to go, I'm only going to throw this when I need it. No, I'm going to throw it every single pitch, because that's what the big leaguers do. So that's, to me, is part of the problem, because the information screams, this guy can't hit this pitch, so keep throwing it. I've seen guys with 97 in their arsenal. It's a show pitch. They're throwing 72% breaking balls. And I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? You got 97? So that's what I would teach. I would teach them how to pitch with gears. If you got 99, why do you have to throw it at 99 every single time? But that's what they're asking them to do, so that's what players are going to do.
Oh, man, Smoltz, such great stuff, man. We really appreciate this. We're looking forward to listening in the postseason come Saturday and all the way into the World Series, man. And great seeing your face, man. Thanks for joining us today in the mayor's office, brother.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys.
You got it. Thanks, Smoltz.